And ladies and gentlemen, we are live. It is February 6th, 2023. This is the Voice of Reason podcast. My name is Sean Phillips. As always, I'm joined alongside my co-host, Mr. Andy Van Beber. We are without Travis
Bless you.
Perkino. Sorry, I had to
Bless you.
sneeze there off mic. My gosh. No, I'm actually allergic to the bullshit that V has in front of me.
Red Kingdom.
You know what? I hope that we get flagged for copyright for that, because I hope Tech9 hears that, wants his money. That's the Kansas City thing to do. Is just
oh my God!
Come down, people. I mean, you guys were able to get rid of Tyreek Hill, but it still doesn't matter. It is still, here's the thing.
Oh, yes. What is the thing?
It would be so funny to me. Let's say if the Chiefs lose,
they're going.
It'll be so great, because the amount of people that I've had to hear, like, "Oh, this is a dynasty. This is the next dynasty. This is the next dynasty." I hope that they lose. I hope it's as embarrassing as the loss as Tampa Bay was.
Yeah.
And then I won't have to hear it. I'll be able to say, nope, just another poverty franchise.
And I will, you know what? And I'm
system QB.
I am a huge fan, but I'm also a realist that the Eagles have been playing phenomenal football this year. You've known me for what, close to probably 10, 15 years now. And I've been a Chiefs fan. I became a Chiefs fan in 1991 when I moved to Missouri from Illinois, because Chicago Bears also suck. But we are not. I don't know. I think that the Philadelphia defense is going to have a field day with us. I think that we're not going to be able to. There's a lot of I was reading ESPN this morning, and ESPN, they always do the Madden simulation every year, and the Madden simulation has the Chiefs losing by 2 touchdowns, so 14 point, and they say that it's so. Well, I'm
not going to hold my breath. I expect. As a Packers fan, the last couple of years, I expect pain. And as a Chiefs hater, I expect pain. And I'm sure there will be plenty of pain. Now, there was plenty of joy when they did make it to the Super Bowl and played the Bucs. I don't know if there's any better icing on the cake than Brady beating Mahomes. That's also nice. Like, Ketchup Kermit, and just knowing that he cried, and that his awful wife cried, and that his awful brother cried.
Now listen, that's a package deal that we don't like as Chiefs fans. You can keep his wife, and you can I have made it a point to, every time, like, he has his little thing that pops up on Snapchat, and I always click on the little arrow. I want to see less of this. I see less of this. Jackson Mahomes is the biggest media whore that I think could ever. You want to talk about riding the coattails of his brother? Holy crap.
The coattails of Ketchup Kermit? Yeah.
I will agree with a comment you did make on Facebook, and I thought that was a terribly, terribly, terribly officiated game. That guy, that official will probably, I would say, will probably never see. I mean, is it safe to say that? I mean, I don't even know how they determine how they determine the selection. I mean, if they're rated over
the selection of refs,
is it rating over the course of the year?
Is it's over the course of the year, and then there's certain groups for playoffs. One thing that I'm sure, I know that you listen to Pat McAfee from time to time.
Yes, I do.
He brought up a really good point of something that needs to happen, is because the NFL has all this money. Like the NFL, there are certain spots where the NFL can afford to hemorrhage money, and it's okay. It does not hurt the overhead of this company if they hemorrhage. Even if it was something along the lines of $50 million a year, it legitimately would not hurt the company. They make so much money. But they were talking about how the NFL needs to have a legitimate referee university, and they need to stop having these people have other part-time jobs and have these people be retired that come in to be refs. It's you straight up, your career, your job is to be a referee, and it's a selective process. And you have to quite literally go through university to be trained.
Yeah.
So that we have referees that are ready, that are knowledgeable, that are on standby, instead of all this crap that we run into time after time after time after time. I mean, there's obviously going to be games where like refereeing is just bad. I remember when the Rams went to the Super Bowl, and I think it was the NFC Championship game. They played the Saints, and there was a blatant pass interference, blatant as black as the sky is at night. Like, it was a blatant pass interference, and it was a no call, and the Rams ended up going to the Super Bowl.
Right there, and I saw that, and they simulated that same exact play. I think they set that play up on another Madden game, and they showed that. I remember that call, and that was by far the worst call.
The thing is, I remember when they did it, like, that's what led to you being able to challenge pass interference and stuff like that. And then there was one season where they allowed people to challenge pass interference, and it was awful. It just didn't work. What I don't understand is why there is not again, I understand some of it, in order to keep the flow of the game. Those no calls can kind of hurt, but in the same token, like, I'm tired of the NFL acting like they don't have the abilities, like, or the resources to make certain things happen, like a sky judge, to quite literally be able to look over the field. And if the sky judge can go, oh, hey, like, calls like that, you should be able to call back. Now, again, but then it creates a gray area, because it's like, if you see someone holding, if you see a block in the back, or what calls are calls that you call back. There has to be a standard. The unfortunate error to everything is there's always just going to be bad reffing. I mean, and it's the same thing with like boxing or MMA, where you have judges that just are bad at judging. And it's the same thing with like in dance, if you're a dancer, a competitive dancer, or a competitive cheerleader, and you have judges, and sometimes judges are just biased. And I'm not saying that these refs were biased. I'm just saying that sometimes inherently people are bad. I mean, you look at it like there are straight up 60-year-olds that are reffing these games with,
or these guys
20-year-old superstar athletes, and they can't move, they can't see.
Right. They can't get down the field. They can't be in position. And I mean, you watch all of these network games. We have the technology, and hats off to the XFL and the USFL, because the XFL and the USFL, when you watch the USFL's feed last year, I didn't have a team I really rooted for, but I loved, and I didn't watch every game, but I peeked in, and they would always have, like, they had like the refs mic'd up, and they had the booth mic'd up, and you could see everything that was going into that play. And that guy, Pereira, I can't think of, Mike Pereira was the officiating. He headed the officiating for the USFL last year. And you could hear them, oh, hey, we missed one there. And I mean, they had a guy who was in the booth who was watching everything from the top. And he would okay, we're going to buzz the guy down there on the field. And with all these camera angles and 4K, 5K cameras, I mean, you can get just literally, I mean, there's not an angle they can't, I mean, between drones and those sky cams that go on the cables and everything and all that stuff, there's literally not an angle that they can't cover that, hey, we're going to, they can have trained cameras on certain spots every time. And yeah, I mean, but then you get into that whole argument, and the same thing happens with baseball now that they've got time on baseball, the whole integrity of the game thing. And, at what point, do you allow for human error, and what time? I don't know. But I mean, the whole thing about, oh, it was rigged. I mean, we said the same thing about the Patriots, and every time that old, what's his name got in there, and I don't know. But, anyway, that was and so the Super Bowl is I'll be watching it. I'm hoping against hope, but I'm also a realist. I've read the line. I know what the line is, and it's right now I think it's at 6. It's still at 6 points. I think it's going to get wider. So I don't know.
I know that originally the Chiefs opened up as the favorite. It was 150, and then I know that it switched.
Yeah. It's not.
It's
No.
switched.
No.
Yeah, but
No.
I don't know. I hope that it's a devastating loss. I hope that I never wish injury upon someone, but I hope that mentally there are scars on this and that Ketchup Kermit can't throw the football again
Ketchup Kermit, man.
after
Every
this.
time
Yeah.
you say that, yep. Anyway,
But here's the thing. The Eagles literally have to do one thing to win this football game, and again, it's so funny because the Bengals did it the second half of the game and it worked. This is the thing, and I will never understand why teams don't do this. I genuinely, when the Bills lost 2 years ago in the AFC, not when
Yes,
when the
they-
AFC championship
yes, it
game, it
was.
was the game to go to. It was the game to go
oh
to
yeah,
when
yeah,
there was
yeah.
that
Because
double overtime.
right. Because then they lost to the. Then they end up
Here's the
losing.
thing.
Yeah.
Here's the thing I will never understand. These teams, over and over and over and over and over and over again, when Travis Kelce has these 25-yard chunk plays that he has all the time, it is quite literally because these teams don't press in coverage against him. They will let him sit in the middle, and there's open gaps. All you have to do to beat the Chiefs is to have someone one-on-one
with Travis Kelce all night
and
long.
have a safety backside. That's it. That is quite literally, because even guess what? If he catches, it breaks a route and catches a slant, catches a 10-50, he's not going to do it every play. But
they give him way too much. They give him.
It is like against the Bills. I think he caught like 2 passes for like 57 yards across the middle of the football field. So I will never understand it. I've never understood it. The Bengals did it last week or 2 weeks ago. They still ended up losing the game because they were, battling 16 players on the other side of the field and 4 in zebra stripes. But again,
man,
it's
so aside from that,
anywho, yeah. So
how's your how you why don't you fill us in on where you've been and what's been going on the last couple of weeks?
Things have been good. Things have been very busy. We actually have a show tomorrow in Irvine. We have a television taping for wrestling. We had a great show in Mesa, Arizona. I know I had talked about that a little bit. I know it's been crazy. Now we are shuffling to get things ready and rock and rolling for Louisville, Kentucky. So I will actually be out in the Midwest in March with the family. And speaking of the family, Julian just celebrated her 4th birthday yesterday. So
that's aging me. It's aging me.
It's
goodness.
If it's aging you, you don't want to know what it's doing to me.
Yeah,
so,
well, you're gonna the gray hairs are gonna start poking in there before long.
Great. Well, I'll be lucky to have gray hairs. I think I'm just gonna lose it all first, and I'll have the Dwayne the Rock Johnson hair and not the body. So,
can we expect a visit then, or are you going to be?
Yeah, no. Of course, I'm hoping we'll see to our fans and our listeners. Hopefully, fingers crossed, no promises, but there might be the trio live brought together in March.
That would be great.
for a show. And then now that it's legal in Missouri, we'll get you higher than an elephant's ass fee, and Travis could probably smoke on some of that good stuff too. And
my God,
we'll see. I'm still in the military, so I have to yo-yo with my drill schedule. But other than that.
So
no, other than that, things have been good. School has been absolutely whooping me.
Yeah.
Between my midterms, I'm in an ethics class, and let me tell you something about ethics. It's all bullshit. I am learning from a guy named Mill and Kant, and what I know is that I can't mill over any of the bullshit that I am trying to learn about, because reading these guys' ethics books. I would actually rather watch a 24-hour live stream of Patrick Mahomes doing a voiceover of his top plays while his brother dances in the background. That is actually how tough some of this is. So.
When I tell you what, when we had to take ethics in education, that to me was by far that rather sit in a tub full of scissors. I get that, and it's so ironic. I think that ethics is becoming more and more part of the college curriculums across the United States because of what our society is, and so I love how we're trying to teach something that we don't even practice. So,
Well, it was nice. I'll tell you what, though. I went to church yesterday,
mhm,
and I was actually able to use part of the sermon in my. I had a midterm last night that I had to do for my ethics class,
mhm,
and it was actually good because we're in ethics. We're learning about utilitarianism,
mhm.
and utilitarianism.
Most
Long
good, most
story, very
most good for
short,
the most
is
people.
whoever benefits the most. So it's
Mhm.
one of those like, would you kill 100 people to save 1,000?
Yep.
That kind of argument. And so we actually, my pastor is doing a series on King Solomon, and so we did a brief overview of when um, there were two prostitutes,
Right.
each had a
Yeah.
baby.
Right.
One rolled over, killed her baby, swapped the other baby, and then King Solomon gave the
Cut it.
offer to cut the baby in half.
Mhm.
And then he found out the real mother was like, "No, don't cut the baby in half," which the other woman's like, "Oh, I guess that's fair." So he was like, the woman that doesn't want the baby to die is probably the real mom. So I was able to kind of flim flam my way and work that into one of the questions that was asked. So
Good.
it's always nice when church comes in clutch, so you don't look completely
Yes.
stupid whenever you're bullshitting yourself
I'm
in
glad
an
to see
essay.
that.
Which
I'm glad.
ironically, Kant and Mill were both very agnostic individuals, so their whole thing was like, hey. You can be morally good for other reasons than religion. So
Hmm.
that was the upside to it. But speaking of, I'm not actually going to be the only thing that's flying over Missouri. Our topic tonight is
Right.
actually going to be about a Chinese weather balloon, is what we'll call it,
Right.
that decided
Right.
to take a trip
Chinese.
around the globe and
Two of them.
keep its eyes
Let's
in
be
your
official.
window.
Two of
Yeah.
them. Two of them.
So why don't you give us the breakdown on
Well,
timeline of events of what you've
right.
got pulled up in front of
So what ended up happening with this? So this was first spotted. This was first spotted over Alaska on. Let me get my timeline pulled up here. So this was the balloon. It was high. They first acknowledged it over Alaska, and our that was last Saturday, and so and this was not released to. It was not made known to the public until a a reporter in Montana, and I was looking for his name. I can't find his name, but this reporter in Montana, he actually is former pilot, and he had gotten new lenses and everything, and people were calling and saying, "Hey, there's this object that we're seeing up in the sky over what was it, Great River? What was it, Great Falls, Montana? I believe is where it was at." And so then it's put out onto social media. It's put out. Everybody's seeing it. Everybody's spotting it. And so then the government on Sunday, a week ago yesterday, said, "Okay, yes, there is a balloon," and our Secretary of State was supposed to go meet in Beijing on Tuesday, and Secretary of Defense Milley informed Biden that the balloon appeared to be on a clear path into the continental United States. Now the Chinese said, "Well, the westerly winds have caught it and it's blown off course. It is a meteorological weather observing balloon." As we got more and more cameras, and then we had all of our F-22s and all of our high elevation aircraft looking at this thing, taking pictures of this thing, and some of the tech that we were seeing on this, it was obvious that this was not a weather balloon, that there was tech on there that wasn't common to meteorological, your standard weather balloons. I mean, we send up hundreds of thousands of weather balloons every year here in the United States just to monitor and this had nothing of that sort. And also, your standard weather balloon will travel somewhere in the neighborhood of between 15 and 20,000 feet. This was operating. It was, I believe, they first saw it. I think was it 80,000 or 60,000 feet. I couldn't remember which way that was, but at that point on Tuesday, the President Biden, he was giving every indication on Tuesday, we need to take this thing down. But the thing about this balloon, the payload on these balloons were the size, roughly the equivalent of 2 coach buses. Okay, so you're talking somewhere in the neighborhood of about 140 tons. Okay, your standard, well, probably more than that, because your standard school bus is 70,000 pounds. Okay, so is 70 tons. Okay, and so you're talking at least 140 tons, and so something like that falling to the earth, and people, and of course I've been monitoring my news sources throughout the week, and of course and we'll get into this here in a little bit, but the right is just having a field day with this, and that, okay, we've allotted to go over all of our, what was it? It was 5 bases plus, what were the 2 there in Missouri? You said Scott, and what was the
Scott Air Force Base and Whiteman Air Force Base.
Whiteman, which is there in Knob Noster, which holds our Blackbird fleet.
So Whiteman Air Force Base is the largest bomb depository in the United States.
Right.
And Scott Air Force Base is where all of the aircraft that carry those bombs are stationed. So to put it in perspective, I don't know if you remember when Trump was president, there was a big old article that I know it was like 100 and something, maybe more, maybe a couple less. ISIS members were killed because we had sent what was called the Moab, the mother of all bombs. That we blew up the side of a mountain with. And so those were kept in Whiteman Air Force Base, and they get loaded from Scott. So literally the airplanes from Scott Air Force Base will fly and fuel at Whiteman, and that's where they go directly from there to perform those missions. The reason why those are there and not on any of the coast is because for things like this, and if there was any kind of warfare where we were worried about nukes, where we were worried about other airplanes or aircraft coming to attack, they keep them off the coast just so that we don't get a coastal attack. These are central based. It's also the same reason why Albuquerque, New Mexico is one of the largest nuclear bomb depositories in the world. It's out in the middle of absolute nowhere, and if Albuquerque went kapooey, then fuck it, you lose Albuquerque. Yeah. I don't know what else to tell you. But yeah, I mean, so with this, you're right. The right did have a field day with it. I have not done enough research to be able to fact check. I know that I saw a thing that, again, who knows how much of this is flim flam, who knows how much. I'm just saying, it looks like there was an article that was put out by the White House, if I'm not mistaken, that said that the previous administration had like 3 of these same exact type of balloons. And again, no word on the ground. And maybe that was because they, I don't know if they had passed through. I don't know if it was because they weren't seen. I don't know if it was because, maybe they knew, like, if we know that there were 3 of them and we were tracking, they didn't see them as threats. It's interesting because I genuinely, I don't know. This one's path was just quite interesting.
I'm bringing that up right now. For those of you who are watching us live, I'm trying to find the I just had a map of it here. Here we go. So this map right here that we're bringing up, let me see if I've got this on. Yeah, here we go. So this is the path in which they show. So this